So this video is going to be relatively short. We are going to discuss the last spirochete. If you've not already watched the Borrelia burgdorferi video or the treponema video, watch those to get kind of a definition of spirochetes, how they work, and dark field microscopy. Basically, there are three spirochetes. There is Borrelia, treponema, and Leptospira. So I've saved Leptospira for last. These are thin coiled spirochetes, um, and they're kind of hooked at one or both ends, which provides kind of an adherence factor for this particular organism. They can be kind of anywhere. So they're obligate aerobes, so really all they need is oxygen, and they grow pretty well at 28 to 30 degrees Celsius. They're highly motile, like most of the spirochetes. They have that internal axial fibril flagella. And for the most part, they're actually associated with surfers. So if you've spent a lot of time in Hawaii, you might have heard of them. Basically, they colonize fresh water pools and estuaries. So where do we find them? You can pretty much find them in any animal. So pretty much any animal or parasite or pathogen that has this tightly wound spiral with hook ends. It's very distinctive. And you can find them in cats, dogs, cows. Another place that we really worry about them is actually rodents. That's another place that they tend to be. And the thing about Leptospira is that it always, always, always attacks the kidneys. And when things attack the kidneys, then we worry about how they leave the body. Well, it's always excreted. So it attacks the kidneys and then it exits the body in the urine. So then how do we come in contact with it? Well, you acquire it by coming in contact with animal urine. So you might be sitting there thinking, well, I just don't come in contact with animal urine, so I'm not going to get lepto, which is great. I think that's a fantastic idea. But it actually colonizes these fresh pools and estuaries. So if you've ever gone, water skiing on a nice fresh water lake or anything, then, that's where you could have contracted Leptospira. Or if you go fishing, well, freshwater lakes are a common place to get leptospirosis because animal urine makes its way into the lake in the runoff, and then you ingest or you inhale it. So just like the other spirochetes, leptospirosis has distinct phases. So the first phase, you get flu-like symptoms. During this phase, the patient is bacteremic, so you'll be able to identify the spirochete in the blood. And the organisms can even be isolated from the CSF too. What's interesting about that is that there aren't any neurologic symptoms, it's just that we can find them there. And these symptoms will typically go away within about a week. The second phase is actually the more severe disease with student onset of, or sudden onset of headache, myalgia, chills, abdominal pain. You'll also get some conjunctival effusion. And severe disease occasionally leads to vascular collapse, thrombocytopenia, hemorrhage, and hepatic or renal dysfunction. There's also this other disease that's associated with it, Vials disease. Now, if you're a fan of the sketchy micro videos, they actually have this wrong. They call it Wales disease, I think because it works with their schematic, but it's not really what it is. It's Vials disease, and I just think they needed to be more creative there. What can I say? But anyway, so with Vials disease, you get this transient movement of the organism to the liver before it heads on out to the kidneys where it replicates and is passed out in the urine. And the hepatic involvement will actually have jaundice in patients with this severe leptospirosis. You'll get hepatic necrosis occasionally, but it's not seen very often in these patients. And the surviving patients don't suffer permanent damage. If you do wind up with the chronic infection, though, if you're unable to clear it and you don't get treatment, then that can lead to renal failure. In the US, the best place to encounter leptospirosis, should you like to see it, is actually Hawaii. And you might say, Hawaii? Why there? I'm thinking like oceans. That's not fresh water. Well, surfers actually have the highest incidence of leptospirosis. And although it's unlikely that surfers get it from surfing, where the rivers dump into the ocean. If they're heading through the estuary, they might get it there. But where you're most likely to get it is actually in those inland pools and islands. So let's fast forward to May of your M2 year. You've taken and killed the step one exam, which I know you're all going to do, and you've got a couple of weeks before crash and consolidated cases. So you decide, I'm going to go on a beautiful vacation to maybe a romantic island with my significant other. And you look up places and you see these beautiful waterfalls and lush green jungle, and you say, that's it, Hawaii. I'm going to Hawaii. So you save your pennies and you buy your outrageously expensive ticket to Hawaii, and you take the 9-hour flight from Chicago with your significant other, or just maybe somebody you want to be your significant other. And you get there and you rent a car and you drive up the trail to the bulkhead, and then you walk and you see these pools, these beautiful pools, and there's no one around except you and this significant person that you want in your life. And there's gorgeous trees, and it's just like the ad. And you're about to jump in, and then you see the sign, no swimming, leptospirosis. And you think, what? Come on. Maybe I'm sure they don't mean it, but they do. And life isn't fair. And you'll be cursing me, Dr. Richards, when you see them. But it's okay because Hawaii has beautiful beaches and you can go there instead. So how are you going to diagnose it? Well, you'll diagnose via culture or dark field microscopy. Alternatively, there's an ELISA or an IgM antibody, and the organism can be isolated from the blood in the first week and the urine after that. So it's a pretty easy diagnosis. Although leptospirosis is typically not fatal, you are going to treat it with either doxycycline or IV penicillin. People have tried vaccinating livestock and pets, and that's proved successful in reducing the incidence of disease in populations with which humans regularly interact. So that's brought the incidence down some, so that maybe one day we won't see no swimming leptospirosis.